Thank you for the opportunity. I think it's a great event, great atmosphere. I'm probably standing third-party data points. This is purely based on our experience working with various customers globally. Is there a pointer? Yeah. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? I mean, we're going to cover three things, right? One is, what are the typical challenges and pitfalls an enterprise who is adopting analytics as one of the strategic initiatives will face? How can a partner help in this journey? And what are the right fit partnership models as well as engagement models within that, right? So that's what we're going to discuss. Now let's look at how analytics has taken a path in the last few years, right? 5, 6, 7 years back, analytics was definitely a good to have kind of an initiative. It was experimented in silos, and obviously human intuition always used to override data-driven decision making at that point in time. So though analytics was kind of employed tactically or strategically or whatever, but it was never used in business outcomes, right? It was always human intuition which was kind of overriding it. 3, 4 years back, things have changed with the adoption of new technologies and with the computing power coming down, with the storage processing coming down from a cost perspective, and a lot of new technologies which has the ability to deal with big data kind of challenges. I think it has become more or less aspirational and mainstream. There are a lot of success stories. Everybody is able to make data-driven decision making. So there's a lot of leaders who are adopting that, and then some of the laggards are trying to catch up, right? So that is like a couple of years back, maybe 3, 4 years back. Now I think today, as we speak, it has become a mandate, right? Why is it a mandate? Because it has become a significant competitive advantage for businesses, right? If you're not adopting analytics, and if you're not leveraging the power of analytics for business decision making, I think you're probably losing out with respect to your competition. So it has become a mandate. Now, who is getting the mandate today within the enterprise, right? There are two sets of, sorry, what did I do? Oh, sorry. Okay, there are two sets of organizations within an enterprise who typically gets the mandate. Either one of them gets the mandate, frankly, right? One is the CIO organization. As we all know that CIOs probably are a little biased towards these kind of initiatives, and they look at it more as a technology initiative than as a business initiative. Then if you look at business teams, they are the right people to drive this, but the challenge is they will have to grapple with a lot of new technology and a lot of data volumes, right? So who is the right group to get this mandate, and how can they handle this challenge is what I'm going to discuss in further slides. Now look at different organizations or enterprises at different levels of maturity, right? Let's look at an organization where the CIO is trying to drive the mandate. The challenge for them is they're trying to do it with the existing teams, and those existing teams are more tech people, more IT kind of people, and they probably don't understand business, they don't understand data technologies, they probably don't even understand analytics. How can analytics help business problems, right? So that's the challenge that CIOs face. These kind of organizations are basically getting off the blocks. So they are basically crawling at this point in time. But there are a lot of organizations in this maturity curve. Then the next set of organizations where the analytics mandate is driven directly by the business groups, but that again is kind of done in silos. For example, marketing is trying to solve their KPIs using analytics. Supply chain is trying to do it on their own. Customer analytics is done as a separate initiative. So there's no coherent integrated strategy, so these groups are not talking to each other, but they're probably solving problems in silos, but it is better than the previous one, so obviously they're kind of walking. Then the next set of organizations where the mandate is still driven by the CIO, but then they're smart enough to figure out that their existing teams cannot do it, so they are basically incubating specialist teams within their groups. These guys have got their act to a large extent right, so they're almost running. And the last set of enterprises are probably the most mature of the lot. These are the guys who are setting up global shared services across business units, but directly driven by the business, like a chief analytics officer or some kind of a chief data officer or whoever it is. So those are the guys who are basically flying, right? We at Brillio has experience dealing with customers in each of these maturity levels. And in fact, I have personally worked with all these customers myself. So I can basically say that some of the Western customers, when I say Western customers, primarily US and Europe, are probably in the first and third bucket. Some of them are even in the, some of the Western customers are probably in the fourth and second bucket. Most of the Indian customers who are basically a little late in adopting this game, they are either in 1 or 3 at this point in time. Now, what are the challenges typically faced by the owners of this mandate, right? Let's look at it as 4 different themes. The first is about strategic alignment. Whenever you are trying to drive analytics as a competitive advantage or as a business initiative, you have to ensure that the business teams and the business owners are aligned to this initiative, right? But a lot of times the biggest problem on the ground is that these business guys are probably running their business for the last 20 years. They know how to run their business. It's very difficult to convince them that we can change the status quo and basically we can tell them that we can do it better, right? So they are probably not believing in this concept. So it's very, very difficult to align the business owners and business users. That's probably the first challenge anybody will face. The second, obviously, thing is about getting it right first time and trying to prove that analytics can deliver value, right? While analytics is a 3-5 year journey, unless you get it right in the first 6 months and you're able to demonstrate the lowest hanging fruit in terms of delivering value, I don't think business has patience to wait for 3 years or 5 years. So it's all about driving transformation, but quick wins. The next one, obviously, is ensuring agility. While it is about ensuring quick wins, it's also about building sustainable and scalable solutions. A lot of times, people are myopic. People try to take shortcuts, and then it's not a sustainable and scalable engagement. So it kind of fizzles out. The last one, obviously, is building an organization which will allow you to execute flawlessly, right? Now let's look at organizations where the CIO is trying to drive the mandate for the company from an analytics perspective. Their challenge primarily will be upstream. When I say upstream, it is about convincing the business that even the status quo can be changed, even steady state processes can be improved with data-driven decisions, with analytics. I mean, that's probably the biggest problem a CIO-driven mandated organization will have. While we cannot discount the other challenges that they face downstream. When I say downstream, it is about building sustainable solutions, building integrated solutions, building teams which can deal with this kind of scope change, ambiguity, different technologies, different kind of people and stuff like that, right? But let's now look at the organizations where the mandate is driven by the business teams directly. Now their challenges are very different, right? They probably have challenges downstream. When I say downstream, it is about getting the solution right, getting the technology right, getting the teams right, and ensuring that they build a sustainable longer-term organization. Whereas the upstream things are still a challenge for them, but since they are part of the business, they'll be able to convince, because they know the business better than anybody else, so they'll be able to at least convince the business stakeholders much better, right? So now, irrespective of the challenges faced by different organizations driven by different mandated groups, the pitfalls are kind of same, right, along those 4 themes or pillars. It is about, if you're trying to do anything internally as an organization, you will always miss the outside-in perspective. You'll always miss what is the competition doing, right? You will always struggle to get this organization aligned unless an external consultant or a partner comes and says, this is the best way to do it. This is how we have done it with one of your competitors. This is the value we have delivered, so this is how we have to probably do it, right? Similarly, if you look at the transformation, a lot of times because of the pressure of delivering value in a short time, transformation is done for the sake of transformation without a real thought put in place, without real strategy and vision and execution capabilities put in place. Now, there's a lot of technology out there in the market. There's a lot of solutions out there in the market, right? When you are starting on a journey, it's always advised not to reinvent the wheel, right? But a lot of times, customers get into this cycle where they start reinventing the wheel, where they start taking decisions in a very short-term view kind of a mode, and then they struggle to scale it up. So these pitfalls are kind of similar across organizations, irrespective of who is driving the mandate. The only difference is probably the gravity of those pitfalls are different for different levels of maturity. Now, what do you need to do as an organization to address these challenges and pitfalls, right? First and foremost, if you want to leverage data, generate insights from data, predict or prescribe solutions based on that, and use that in your day-to-day business operations, you need to have an organization which has these three capabilities. First, you should have a deep understanding of business. Analytics is never a technology initiative. It's always a business initiative. So you have to first have a deep understanding of business. Second, you should have a deep understanding of how various tools and technologies can potentially solve the business problem, right? And some of these are advanced tools and technologies. Some of these are data scientists or data modelers or data analysts or visualizers and those kind of people. So it's kind of very, very difficult to integrate such an organization. Last one is all about execution know-how. It is about planning a roadmap, defining a roadmap, prioritizing, program managing the scope, managing the ambiguity of scope, those kind of things, right? Unless you have an organization which brings these three pieces together, I don't think you'll ever succeed in your analytics journey, right? Now the question is, do you build all these things in-house or do you build all these things with a partner? I mean, it's up to you to decide, irrespective of whether you go with a partner or you try to do it in-house, you need to have all these three capabilities built into your organization. Now, let's look at organizations where the mandate is driven by CIOs, right? Again, we have two types of organizations within that bucket. One is CIOs trying to do everything internally, or CIOs leveraging some kind of a specialized teams incubated as part of their organization, right? Now let's look at the first one, where the CIO is trying to do everything in-house with his existing teams. He's going to go nowhere, right? So the best way to handle this is to go with a partner. It's called partner-driven model, where most of the upstream as well as downstream activities will have to be done by the partner. This is probably the easiest way or the fastest way to embrace this analytics journey. Obviously, it comes with certain challenges. We'll discuss that a little later. But the point that I would like to make is the internal CIO organization in this case is more of an enabler, helping you walk through the dynamics of the organization potentially and helping you wade through the internal dynamics, right? Apart from that, there's absolutely no role for them in the upstream phase. Even in the downstream phase, if there is a lot of integration that we need to do into the internal ecosystems that the CIO is managing, that is where probably the legacy skills of the internal IT team will come in. Otherwise, it is fundamentally driven by a partner. And we at Brillio have been dealing with customers in this model as well, right from doing business consulting, trying to tell them what is the right tools and technologies, trying to tell them what are the right use cases to prioritize, and then kind of realizing that roadmap as part of the execution phase. All of that we are doing end to end. And the CIO is just an enabler in this whole process, right? Now the next one, where the CIO has set up an internal specialized team. In this case, the internal specialized team has the ability to do some of the upstream activities. When I say upstream activities, it is about identifying what are the business challenges, what are the business priorities, what are the right use cases to prioritize in the initial journey. How do you build a consensus with the business teams? How do you build a business case around it? Those kind of things, right? So some of the heavy lifting happens within that internal specialized teams, whereas in the downstream phase is where a consultative partner will come in, right? So the consultative partner typically will bring in the tech know-how, the analytics know-how, the execution know-how. The business know-how potentially is done in-house through the specialized teams. So that's the difference. So this partnership model is called strategic consultative partner. Now let's look at organizations where the mandate is directly driven by the business teams, right? Again, there are two types of organizations within this bucket. The first organization is where the business is trying to do things in silos. Marketing department is trying to do whatever they want to do. The customer analytics team is trying to do whatever they are trying to do, or the customer service team is trying to do what they are trying to do, right? In these cases, they are probably the best guys to figure out what is the right business priority, what are the right business use cases they have to solve, and those kind of. Upstream is all kind of dominated by them to a large extent, whereas the partner is primarily a technology innovation partner. All that they bring to the table is what are the right tools and technologies, what is the right way to execute, what are the right ways to integrate the outcome into the business process, and those kind of things. So there's a lot of work that partner will be doing, but partner is primarily a technology partner. And then organizations with the highest level of maturity, where the business has set up some kind of a shared services center for analytics globally across business units and across geographies, right? These kind of guys, I don't think a partner can do much for them unless they are basically trying to optimize their costs, or unless they are trying to bring in the second round of efficiencies, or probably trying to do a second round of transformation. So the role for a partner is typically downstream. There's nothing much you can do upstream. Now, what we have discussed so far is the partnership models, right? Should it be driven directly by the partner? Should you bring in partner as a consultative guy? Should you bring in partner as a technology innovation, on those kind of things, right? Now, what are the right engagement models once you decide that you need a partner, right? Compared to the IT world, I mean, analytics world and IT world probably is very similar in this concept, right? The engagement models are still the same. Staffing, retainer model, or managed services kind of a model, right? When do you use staffing model? When scope is not very clear, or you know exactly what you want and you just want some external resource to come and help you out, or you have a lot of regulations which will allow you to, which will not allow you to kind of share data outside your premise, but you still need a lot of technology help. So that is where the staffing model is the right model. Whereas retainer model is basically for organizations where the scope is still not clear, the power of analytics is not yet proved, you're still trying to get your act right, you're still trying to make your baby steps. So bring in a partner as a retainer who will do a lot of things on a need basis where the scope is not very clearly defined, right? So that's basically when you bring in a retainer kind of a model. Last one is when everything is clear, you need to do it in a completely managed and outsourced mode where you can measure the outcome in an SLA mode, or even in a commercial mode. Then I think that is when the managed services model will come in, right? Now, what we have discussed so far is that we have discussed the partnership models depending upon the maturity levels of the organization. We also discussed the engagement models. How do you marry these two together, right? What is the right engagement model for the right partnership model at various levels? And that is what my next slide is all about. Don't worry about the complexity of the slide. I'm not trying to scare people away. All I'm trying to communicate is, if you're an organization where your maturity level is the lowest, which is the first row, where you definitely need a partner for both upstream as well as downstream activities, what is the right engagement model at various steps or at various levels? That is what this is all about. If you abstract this a little and read this, typically it will be a combination of retainer and managed model. That is what you have to employ across various partnership models, depending upon your level of maturity. Staffing is best avoided as much as possible unless you're extremely mature and you just need some additional help from an external partner, right? So that's why if you see retainer and managed models are pretty much dominating the slide, whereas staffing model is kind of there in probably a couple of places. If you guys need, I will be more than happy to share this slide so you don't have to take photographs. I think I've probably come to the last slide already. Closing thoughts, right?